Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our fourth community call here at Dgraph, the one for November. My name is Vijay Ratnam. I'm VP of Engineering at Dgraph and Head of India. And it's my privilege to welcome you today and also introduce my co-speakers and colleagues here. Pawan Raval, who is our senior engineer and responsible for the GraphQL part of the product and code base, and Tejas, who is head of our Slash GraphQL, the fully managed hosted solution. We also have a very special guest here today with us, Shardul, who is the founder of GamePe and also the winner of our recent hackathon, the Hack and Slash GraphQL hackathon. So we'll be talking to him and seeing his entry shortly. So with that, we will be recording today's call. We'd also encourage you to ask questions on the link that is given below. And my colleagues and moderators today, Zenny and Phoebe, will be sharing the link on the chat. So feel free to use that to ask your questions. This will go on to the discuss board and will be available for later use as well. So feel free to ask questions and we will definitely answer those for you. Okay. Okay, so we have a good agenda for you all today, starting with a quick chat with Hardul. Before that, as many of you may have participated or known, we had a Hack and Slash hackathon that we conducted about a month and a half ago. It was there was a lot of participation there. We had over 100 submissions of ideas, and that was very interesting, ranging from a wide variety of apps and solutions that people had proposed. And very happy to share here today that Shardul and team got the first prize there for building an app that was integrated with Alexa and powered by our Slash GraphQL backend. So after that, we will talk about some department updates from Pawan and Tejas. We'll also see a demo of one of our new features in Slash GraphQL by Tejas, and then we'll be happy to take some questions from you all. So without further ado, Shardul, congratulations and welcome.
Hello, Dgraph community. Thank you for having me. So my name is Shardul, and I was the winner of Slash GraphQL hackathon. So I will be presenting the solution which I built. Okay, so Complete Shakespeare is an open source API and an Alexa skill which is powered by Slash GraphQL. So uh, going on, so it's actually based on the open source Shakespeare project from 2003. So it's a comprehensive SQL database which has like every possible data about Shakespeare. There are different works, genres, characters, but the issue is that it's stored in the format of flat tables, and it's very, it's in a very do-it-yourself format. You need to download the database, put it up on a server, then build a front end app, and then start consuming data from the database. So I built a better solution based on this data set which they provided. So I actually used the dgraph migration tool to and ported all of the data onto Slash GraphQL. And so what happened is this flat SQL database was converted into a native graph. So we have a nice mesh of characters, paragraph, work, chapter, and genre. So you can actually query data with surgical precision. Like you can find like all the paragraphs spoken by a certain character, or maybe the different characters, all the list of characters present in any given work, and so on. It is very comprehensive. And the thing is, it's using Slash GraphQL and dgraph. So you can directly consume the API from your front end without worrying about any intermediary logic. So this was the system working. So this SQL dump provided by open source Shakespeare was loaded down onto MySQL on localhost, and then I ran the migration tool and then uploaded all the generated data using the live loader onto Slash GraphQL. And after that, it was pretty simple. I just had to consume the queries from Alexa, and all the Alexa logic actually it resides on AWS Lambda. So we have a data set, we have a database, and we have a front end. So I built a nice exercise. Play with the data yourself. Website tiny.cc/Shakespeare API. Um, so let's actually try out play with the data. Let's play with the data. Hang on. So this is a graphical environment, and these are actually all the queries which are used by the Alexa skill, the exact same queries. For example, let's try searching for a character. Let's search who is Henry, and will be looking at the character name and all the works in which he appeared. So let's go search character. So we get like different Henrys present in Shakespeare's works. We have Henry the Sixth, who actually appeared in like 4 plays. Then there is Henry the Fifth, Prince of England, Prince and King of England, Prince Henry, Hotspur, Henry Percy, and so on. So actually, it's all this data is very interconnected, and it's very simple to query. And moving ahead, I would like to show a demo of the skill which I built. So play around with the data set, play around with the graphical environment, and you could maybe build some applications yourself using the data set which I built. So moving on to the Alexa skill. So it's there, it's present on Amazon. You can search, you just have to say an invocation you just have to like say an invocation phase that is complete Shakespeare. So Alexa launch complete Shakespeare, and you can start asking these questions like, tell me a quote, who said something is rotten in the state of Denmark, who is Oliver, and so on. So I'll be sharing the link as well. So this is the link for the Alexa skill. I would like to show you a demo. So going on. Um, so Alexa, for example, please tell me a quote. So Alexa, launch complete Shakespeare.
Welcome. You can ask who said X or who is Y, and I will find the character and work. I can list works by genre and can also tell you a random quote. Say help if you want me to repeat the instructions.
Tell me a quote.
But, oh, what damned minutes tells he or who dotes, yet doubts, suspects, yet strongly. Othello, Act 3, Scene 3.
So this was a sample. This is a query executed by the Alexa skill. So all of the queries have been shared. So all of the queries are present in the graphical environment. So I think so that was it. So all the source code is present. It is available on GitHub. It's open sourced under Apache license. And I would like to thank the Dgraph Team, Hackathon, and the open source Shakespeare project. So, are there any? You can ask. You can start asking questions if you have any regarding the project.
Let's see if there are any questions here.
Okay. So I think my favorite work is, it is Hamlet. I haven't read it completely. I read it in bits and pieces and from, like different films which are based on Hamlet. But it is, uh, character wise, like quotes and all, I feel it is Hamlet. And number two, I think it is As You Like It. As You Like It, maybe because, we had this play in school. So I had read that play. Okay. So, how you build the enquad from MySQL? That is from Matteo. So, okay. So I'll just run back into the slides. So, okay. So there's this nice migration tool by Dgraph. So it's a command line tool. So you need to provide the URL for of your database, and then it gives you the converted enquad data. And you'll have to, like in most cases, you'll have to do some changes, like you may have to rename some data. And for example, in this case, I use some regular expressions, like like the data set, I had to connect some of the data, like I had to add reverse connections. For example, if like a work is connected to a character, it wasn't through a foreign key. It wasn't the case. So in the data in the desired format, I wanted reverse connections as well. So I ran a regular expression for that, and I got the complete data, complete RDF format. Okay.
I just wanted to answer that in a little bit more detail. It's not very popularly known, but there's a dgraph command for migration. It's called dgraph migrate. If you just search for those two words together, you'll get a great blog post which explains how to run dgraph migrate, connect it to a SQL database, and it will automatically create everything into RDF format so that you can import it via either bulk or library.
Just also wanted to mention that if you have a dgraph binary, then that command is already available. So you can type dgraph space migrate space help, and that will show you some options of how to use the tool.
Okay. So moving to the next question, there is any other features apart from tell me your code? Yeah, absolutely. So okay. So let's try out this one. So actually there are 4 queries which you can try out. It's all of them are, it's given in the graphical thing, but you can actually you can visit the link Shakespeare, the Alexa skill link. All of it is documented. I'll play the second one. Actually, I had skipped this one.
Want me to repeat the instructions?
Who said something is rotten in the state of Denmark?
Marcellus said this in the play Hamlet. He says something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Okay, so this was the second one. There are actually 2 more. Like, what are?
Want me to repeat the instructions?
Like, what are the works for a particular genre? Okay, so I think okay. Moving on to the third question. How long did the project take you from start to finish? I think it was the entire hackathon span, like start to end the development phase. So I think it was like 1.5 week. So like the majority of the time went into cleaning the database. Like I was a rookie, like I had to set up Docker and everything. So like the Dgraph forums, the discuss website was very helpful over there. But most of the time went in the cleaning part, like setting up, like getting the data in the desired format. So that I think it took like some 5 days. After that, like like after that integrating with Alexa, like it was like a couple of days. Okay, so I think okay. So moving ahead, I would like to pass it on. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Wonderful. Thanks so much again, Shardul. Big round of applause to you and your team for this awesome effort. So thank you very much. Okay. So okay, we'll move right on. So let me invite Pawan.
Hey everyone. So I'm just here to give you some updates about the improvements that we've been doing in Dgraph core. A lot of improvements, a lot of features have gone into GraphQL. So we were supposed to release the 2011 release by November, but it's delayed a bit. It should be out next month in December. We at this moment we are still testing it heavily and just making sure that we are able to remove all the bugs which are easy to find. So yeah, so it's going to be out next month. And there are three things that I wanted to talk about. First is support for authorization on interfaces. The other one is support for count queries at root and at child nodes. And the third one is that and or filters within query and mutations now support an array of objects. So we'll look into these things with some examples in the coming slides. Vijay, can you go to the next one, please?
Yeah.
Right. So the first one is support for auth on interfaces. So as people who have been using Slash GraphQL or Dgraph's GraphQL, they would know that we supported interfaces and we supported auth on types, but auth on interfaces was missing. So that is something which was merged to master this month, and it's also part of 2011 release. If you're starting a new cluster, you would see that now you can add auth directive on interfaces. And what that enables you to do is that if you have some types which are implementing the interface, they would also inherit its auth rules. And these rules are inherited for both queries and mutations. And similarly, what would happen is that if you are querying for a type, then it would also incorporate the auth rules of the interface. And if you query for an interface, that would incorporate the auth rules of the implementing types. So basically, the way that we have built it is that you can only query whatever you can query from the interface. You should only be able to query that when you are doing a query on the implementing type, and when you and vice versa, when you are querying the interface, you should only be able to see what you can see through the types. So that's how the auth rules are built, and we would love for you guys to give it a try. It's been something that has been asked multiple times, and we finally have it. uh, we can move on to the next one. The other thing is a small feature that was already there in DQL, but again is something which a lot of people have been asking for in GraphQL, which is supporting count queries. What this allows you to do is it allows you to count the number of nodes of a type and also count, like do a count of the fields. So what we have now is we have a new query available, which is the aggregate type query. So as you can see on the right, say you had like a post type. So earlier we used to generate get post and query post. Now we also generate aggregate post. So in the aggregate post query, you can give a filter and you can get the count of the post nodes. So something like this allows you to basically get the number of post or the number of posts given a filter. And this is also available on the child. So if you had a query of type query author, now that would automatically have a field called post aggregate if you had post for author. And similarly, for every field that you had inside a type, which was of type list, you would have a new field called post aggregate, or whatever the field name is, suffixed by aggregate. And that allows you to get a number of posts for every author. Similarly, it allows you to get the number of like the count of a field for every field within a type. And all of this respects the query auth rules. So whatever result you get would be after taking in the like essentially taking the auth into account. So again, something that people have been asking for, and it's there in master and would be part of the 2011 release. We can move to the next one. Uh, so this is another thing which basically came up. So people who have been using GraphQL, they would know that the and or fields inside like a type filter were objects, and now we have changed the format to be list. And there are multiple reasons for this. One of the reasons is that there were certain kind of filters that you could not do earlier. Like there were certain kind of filter queries, say A or B and C or D kind of queries that you could not do earlier, and that was because of the limited design of the filter. Those kind of queries are now possible by making the filter as a list. Another thing is that there are like a bunch of queries which were hard to write, because you had to, for example, do like you had to do things like A and B and C and D. But whereas what you can now do is that inside the and argument you can just supply all the filters that you want to apply. So this is another change which had come up, like users were getting stuck, and whatever queries they were writing were too complex for doing something simple. And at the same time we realized that the current design doesn't allow for certain kind of queries. So we made this change, and the good thing is that this is backward compatible thanks to the GraphQL spec and the rules that it has around input coercion. So even though we have made it a list, even if you supply it as an object, we would automatically coerce it to a list. And what that means is that all your old queries would still work. So all your old queries with filters having objects in and or would still work. At the same time, you can give a list, and that would also be dealt with properly. Yeah, so this is another change. If you guys want to have a look at the examples, you could have a look at the GitHub commit that has examples of some cases which were not possible earlier, which are possible now. So these are the three main things which I wanted to share with you guys. If there are any questions, happy to take those questions now. So I can see a question from demo that count slash other aggregations are available for the slash GraphQL as well. Last time I checked, these were not available. So yes, demo, like if you start a new backend on slash GraphQL now, you would have the count queries available to you. And as far as the other aggregations are concerned, we are working on them. There is active work going on to add min, max, average, sum, and all these aggregations. And we should soon have a PR in master, but these won't be available as part of slash right now. But as soon as we have it and as soon as we have tested it properly, we are going to add it to slash.
I'll cover a lot of this Slash stuff also in the next slide. So
yeah,
you just hold on to any Slash questions.
Okay. There are no more questions. Thanks very much, Pawan. We'll move right on. Okay.
Cool. So that comes to the slash GraphQL part of this. Thanks, Pawan. So we've had a busy month at slash GraphQL. The first thing we want to announce is that slash GraphQL is moving towards 2011 very rapidly. As of last Friday, so about 3 days ago, all new backends now run 2011. If you're looking for the specific commit, it's from the 2011-slash branch and this -slash Docker image. So that's for all new backends, which means that you can already use all the features that Pawan on new backends. You can use all the features that Pawan mentioned, as well as Apollo persisted queries. You can use parameterized cascade. One thing that was very popular or very popularly requested was support for Firebase auth, where Firebase gives you a JWK URL, a JSON Web Key endpoint URL from which you're expected to fetch the auth token. This is now fully supported, and with some tutorials and stuff coming up very soon, and the has and count aggregate queries from GraphQL. That covers all the existing backends. Over the next 48 hours, we will be upgrading all existing backends as well over to 2011, which means that by about 24 hours from now, the majority of all backends should be upgraded. And just in case there's a spillover, we don't want to have any downtime, so that's why we asked for 2 days. But there will not be a lot of downtime per backend. It takes us about 2 or 3 minutes to upgrade each one. but they will all be upgraded over the next 2 days. We also have a brand new UI. I don't know. We got a lot of constructive criticism about how great our earlier user interface was. We've been cleaning this up quite a bit. I believe we also have a blog post on the design system we're using and what that looks like. So I'll try to find that and link everyone to that. If not, we'll put up a blog post. I'm pretty sure there is one. Lambdas have been in Slash GraphQL for about a week now. We had this backported to 27 just so that people could use it. But 2011 also is launching. But yes, we have full support for Lambdas. So you can actually upload your JavaScript directly through the UI or the command line, and you can get recent logs so that you can debug what's going on. If you have any console log statements or anything like that. I'm going to take over and do a quick demo and just show off how you would use lambdas in Slash GraphQL. Let me close this. Okay, great. So I'm going to remove this. Oops. Cool. So I'm going to remove this. So I've actually forked this database. I've cloned it from our play.dgraph.io, but this is the demo data set that we have, which has a bunch of directors, movies, so on and so forth. So I mean, overall, there's like there's a lot of types. I didn't write this. This is from play.dgraph.io. So the relevant part I want to that I want to show off is I have a director over here, and a director has many films. So if I query director and I fetch the films under them, I get the films that they've worked on. But what I want to add is a new Lambda directive called good films, right? So I'm only interested in all the good films that this director has actually directed, right? So let's take a look at how this works over here. So I have from my history, I have I'm fetching all the okay. So okay, fine. I guess I don't need any of this. So yeah, so I'm querying a director, filtering for the name Spielberg, and I want to get the ID, the names, the films, the film ID and the film name, and which are the good films of this director. So let's run this. Maybe a little bit controversial, but you can see all these films, but only 2 films are listed as good, which is Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. Now, obviously, what's a good film is dependent on everyone. So let's see how I define what's a good film. So to do that, I'm going to click on the Lambdas tab, and I'm going to get my actual code. Right. So let's look at the bit where we just set everything up. So so I'm going to so this is the magic part where I say add a GraphQL resolver on the director type. The good film the good film field is populated by this query, and I just use the convention of type name underscore field name. So director underscore good films. Right. So let's look at the logic for that. Director underscore good films got a parent and GraphQL. The parent is the director in this case, so the director ID is parent.id, right? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fire a GraphQL query to fetch all the films of this director. So that's done over here. I'm going to query all films by director, pass it a director ID, and I'm going to get the director, and I'm going to get the associated films. So then I'm going to just filter out the films. I don't really care about the director itself. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to map over each of these films, and I'm going to call the OMDB, which is the Open Movie Database API, with this film name and this API key, which we'll all ignore because it's a secret. And I'm gonna fetch what the IMDb rating is for that movie. And if the IMDb rating is more than 8, I'm going to push it into this array, which is called good films, and finally I return the list of good films. And of course, I just did the first 10 movies because I didn't want to bombard them, and it's just an API it's an open API, and I was getting rate limited quite a bit. So as a result, you can see what happens is that at a high level, it's just going to take all the films, it's going to hit the open API, and any of the movies that have scored an IMDb result more than 8 will get returned as the good films. And that's why when I ran this query, I had I had maybe like a dozen or like a little bit more than that films, but only 2 of these films were considered good. Also in my Lambda, the other thing that I do is that when I hit this, I also log the name of the film and the IMDb rating, just so that I could debug this a little bit later. So if I come back here and I click on logs, this might take a few seconds, but you can see what all it listed. So it went through, well, it should have been 10, so that's why there's some duplicates. But you can see that, hey, I have all these movies, and this is the rating for each one. You might have wondered why Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark was not there. For some reason, its IMDb rating is undefined. So, this gives me a clue that this is probably where I want to go and debug. So if I want to add something else, maybe say, I don't know, I could let's say, just say I remove this. Deploying this Lambda is as simple as just hitting save and, give it about 10 seconds. And this has been deployed across your cluster. All this is also available from the command line. Let's see, the slash GraphQL CLI, just to go through the documentation, now has get Lambda, Lambda logs, update Lambda, and delete Lambda. So that's, those are the same endpoints, that you would use to manage it, which will allow you to directly import a Lambda from the command line, either from standard input or from a file, so that you can put it in with your with your CI or whatever your pipeline is. Yes, and with that, I'm finished with my demo. I just picked this particular example because it shows you where you can process data. It also shows you how you can hit an external API and combine these two data to sort of build something even more powerful in Slash GraphQL. Vijay, back to you, and I'm very happy to take any questions.
Awesome demo. Thank you, Tejas. So just would encourage our attendees today to ask a few questions. I think there's a really wonderful capability that we have built in. So let's see if there are any questions coming up.
Yep. And I've kept this demo a little bit brief because I know I covered Lambdas in our last community call as well.
Yeah. So I don't see any questions here.
Okay, great. Over to you, Vijay.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much.
Actually, there is a question. Somebody was asking, are Lambdas available only with Slash? No, that's not necessarily true, but you do need to run a separate server to evaluate these Lambdas. That server, has been open sourced over here as Dgraph Lambda. So you can run this yourself if you're running Dgraph either Community Edition or the Enterprise. It is freely available. However, with Slash, we do manage this for you as packaged as a single backend, and we handle all the updates and everything else that you would want, so that you don't have to manage this yourself. And I don't know if there's a part 2 to that question because it started with 1.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna speak with Dgraph and GraphQL. No, you also okay. So like looking at this for this documentation, you actually do get a DQL function as well. So you can talk with Dgraph both over GraphQL and DQL. I believe I covered this in my last call, but one thing that we actually do is that if you're speaking to the GraphQL interface and you have passed in an auth key for authorization rules to apply, that authorization rules are passed all the way back to slash GraphQL, I mean, back to Dgraph. So the auth rules apply as well when you're working from the Lambda. However, DQL is completely open. So DQL just completely, you can execute any sort of things there. Can you upload TypeScript code? Good question. So we actually do have types that are exposed. I'm just sort of showing this over here. So we do have types. There is like a small difference you'll do with TypeScript. You'd drop all the self dot, but on the whole, you can do TypeScript. We have, I think there's more documentation coming around this, or I think we've Yeah, let me just click over here. But what we sort of expect you to do is okay, fine. Anyway, so I think this is kind of documented in our docs a little bit better. I'll just send a link to that. But you can basically bundle up with Webpack, passing minus minus target is equal to web worker. One of our design decisions when we were working on Lambda is we wanted this to be as close to a standard environment as possible. I mean, of all the standard environments, you have a JavaScript, you have like Node on one side, you have your browser on one side. We felt that web worker was sort of a good minimum API to support in JavaScript. So you can bundle Webpack minus minus target is equal to web worker, and obviously have all your things like converting TypeScript into and even you can run Babel and do whatever magic stuff you want. And finally, you'll need to give us an ES6 compliant JavaScript. So we don't understand TypeScript ourselves, but you can Webpack it and give us the final JavaScript at the output. And we do have an npm package. I think this is available at let's see, yeah, it's available at slash GraphQL slash lambda hyphen types. You can use this if you'd like to write TypeScript with your Lambda stuff. Cool. I guess that's all the questions. Back to you, Vijay.
Yeah. Wonderful. Again, thanks very much, Tejas. So again, just as a reminder, feel free to kind of take our latest and greatest release for a test ride by going on to Slash GraphQL and creating instances there. So I think you'll get a chance to experience the power of our latest release there. So thanks again, Tejas. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay. Okay, we finished this, and I think that's it. And before we close the call for today, I just wanted to kind of share that we also have our the Go Systems Conference coming up on December 3rd. So I think our moderators will be sharing the link on the chat box. We have some very exciting set of speakers lined up for it. So we welcome you to kind of register and enjoy the session there. I think you'll really find it very interesting. So please do consider registering and attending that. Okay, so I think that's any other questions there on the. Okay. So I guess, Zani, we can wrap it up. Is there anything else we need to?
Someone just left a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This might be a question for Ibrahim. So it's a super out of topic, maybe naive, but I had a really tough time scaling Dgraph. Querying our data as a graph was really powerful, but how was a way do you think?
How far away is it?
How far away do you think it is from Postgres in terms of raw inserts?
Right, I can take that one up. So we had, so I don't remember who ran that experiment, but there was a Discuss post in which someone ran an experiment. So they had, I think, two kinds of data sets. In one of those data sets, Dgraph performs very, very close to Postgres. I mean, we don't beat Postgres over there, but even considering how old Postgres is compared to Dgraph, with Dgraph, you are getting the performance as close to Postgres, right? So for small data sets, if you have very, very small data sets, maybe you have a single table in which you don't have any relationships and stuff, Postgres might work better because that's what Postgres can do, right? But if you have complex relationships and stuff, so I think then you could expect that Dgraph might do similar to what Postgres does. But again, that might not be true for all kinds of data sets, right? I don't have a handy link to that discuss post, but maybe I can find it and post it on the community calls, the discuss post. But there was someone who ran an experiment and the performance was close to Postgres. Does that answer the question?
Question from Prithvi. So does it answer your question? Feel free to put a follow-up here. Yeah.
So I think there's a follow-up question, right? What about the cloud costs? I don't really understand what the question is. Yeah, go ahead, Tejas.
No, I was just elaborating. I guess the question is like, it sort of comes down to what spec machines you would need to sort of run Dgraph, right?
Yes, that's true as well. So right now our goal is to make sure all kinds of workloads work with the Dgraph Alpha running on a 32 GB machine. I mean, no instances need more than 32 GB. Earlier, there used to be cases, I think in the older releases when people are doing heavy loads, they had to use machines with 40 GB and even more than 40 GBs. I think I've seen someone with a 60 GB machine as well. So with these newer releases, our goal is to reduce the memory. We have done this memory management stuff, right, with 2011. So this also significantly reduces. So we, I mean, if the question is about how do resources compare, I mean, how does Dgraph compare with Postgres? So I don't have an answer to that, but we are definitely working on improving the resources. So what you could compare is you could compare 2011, 2007 release versus the 2011 release, and you should see a lot of, I mean, very 2011 release should do much better than 27. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I also encourage folks to check out the memory management blog by Manish. I think that goes into a lot of optimization on the memory management side that we have done in 20.11.
Yes.
There's one more question there. Tejas, for you.
For Lambda results from can we continue the resolution in Dgraph or somehow leave of the graph as it was with add custom?
The question before, would it be possible to run Lambda runtime environment?
I don't know what Knative is. Sorry. Let me actually just take a quick look. The second question, can we continue the resolution in Dgraph or somehow leaves of the graph? Actually, this is a very interesting topic. I think we had brought this up. Okay, sorry. Let me just read the second question and I'll come back to the first. Another question about lambdas. Results from lambdas. Can we continue resolution in Dgraph or are they somehow leaves of the graph? As it was with the add custom directive with DQL? That's actually a very good question. It's something we noticed earlier today. I believe as of right now, it looks like the Lambda directives are the leaf. So you cannot continue resolutions of subfields beyond that. However, I think that this might be something we fix in like a future release, and maybe hopefully it'll, some of these things, if they're relevant, they'll come to Slash even before it hits a stable release. I think that's definitely something that we'll take a look at and see how we can address that question. The other question was, is it possible to run the Lambda runtime environment in an environment like Knative? The way that Dgraph actually works with the add Lambda directive is that we have a pretty well-defined API. And if you adhere to that API, then Dgraph can use you as the add Lambda. So when you start your Dgraph server, you basically pass the -- Lambda URL and a link to your endpoint. So theoretically, as long as you support that sort of HTTP API, which takes in whatever parameters and returns whatever result that it does, theoretically you should be able to run Lambda anywhere. But I'm not sure if you'd be able to run our thing for which we've actually published a Docker image, but I'm not sure if that one would run in Knative. But that being said, I don't see why not. I mean, our Lambda project is available on Docker Hub. It's called the Dgraph-Lambda, I think, on Docker Hub as well. So theoretically, you should be able to run that as well with I mean, Knative or anywhere. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all we had that we had planned for you all today. So again, 20.11, please do try it out and share your feedback on that. Do check out the Go Systems conference. We would look forward to seeing you there, and also look forward to seeing you in your future community calls. So there's one question here. Multi-tenant support. Okay.
I mean, I think the answer is no. Multi-tenancy did not make it into 2011. Yeah.
But yeah, I was just saying this is something that keeps coming up. So I think definitely not in 20.11, but I think it is something that we can look for in the future releases in 2021. So I think we'll definitely keep you all posted on how that progresses. Okay.
Okay.
So any other questions on the discuss side from the moderators? Anything showing up there?
Vijay, no questions from the discuss side.
Okay, thank you, Zani. Okay, once again, if there's nothing else, and we can wrap it up today. And thank you all for attending, and we really appreciate your interest and support and questions. Look forward to answering any other questions you may have. If you can post it on Discuss, we'll take it up afterwards. The call is recorded, so it'll be available on our YouTube channel shortly. With that, thank you very much for your time and support, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.